Most young men are single, most young women are not. How is it possible that 63% of young men claim to be single when only 34% of young women claim to be single? The math ain't mathing. But here we have Joe Rogan and CoffeeZilla discussing that very thing here and male loneliness. There's a key piece of information that they're missing that I'm going to tell you when the clip is over. I'll also have the article from The Hill down in the link below.
You know, it's really scary stuff because I read this statistic recently that said that there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30+% of women are single, but it's in the neighborhood of 60% of men.
Really?
Yeah. See if you can find.
Really high.
I know.
In what age group?
Really high. It's 18 to 49 or something.
Oh,
like that.
wow.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's young men.
It's a shockingly
It
high.
doesn't make sense, like why there's such a disparity between the genders. That men are so much more single than women. Like that doesn't even jive.
Yeah, how does that
like how
make sense?
Most men are single, most young women are not.
Maybe the guys
So-
are just saying they're single, and all the girls are like, "We're in a relationship."
It is just a research, right? So it's just a survey, I would imagine. 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living with a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. Nearly half of all young adults are single. 34% of women and a whopping 63% of men. Like,
Wow.
how does that work? How does it work if there's roughly 50% women, 50% men? How could 34% of women be single and 63% of men be single? It says, not surprisingly, the decline of relationships matches a stride with the decline in sex. The share of sexually active Americans stands at a 30-year low. Around 30% of young men reported in 2019 that they had no sex in the past year, compared to about 20% of young women. Only half of single men are actively seeking relationships or even casual dates, according to Pew. That figure is declining.
What if, like, the women thought they were in a relationship and the guys are like,
Right.
"Nah,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
what-
we could say.
fucking single. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, that you could say that. Or maybe the women aren't being honest. Maybe they've gone on a date with a guy and they decide that's their boyfriend. I don't know.
I don't disagree with what they're saying, but here's the key point. This article is focused on men and women in their 20s, young men and young women. And what do we know about young men and young women in their 20s in the year 2024? Because none of this information is surprising to me. Women don't want to date down, only up. See, a 20-year-old woman has the world in the palm of her hands. A 20-year-old man is invisible. This 20-year-old woman, a woman in her 20s, is sought after by men of all ages. A 20-year-old man, 30-year-old women ain't really looking that way. They don't really want to date a guy that's 20, immature, still trying to figure it out, doesn't have his life together. But a woman at 20, 22, 25, prime. So what's happening? Women are dating older men. Men that are more established, have it together already, have figured things out. So it's not uncommon to see a 25-year-old man with a 25-year-old woman with a 32-year-old man. You'll see women in their 20s with men in their 30s and 40s now. That's becoming much more common. Also, a man in his 20s dating, spending money is not benefiting him. He'd rather work his way up the ladder, build himself up, and make money and have the resources so that later he can pick up the woman that he wants at whatever age he wants. That's what ends up happening. So for a man to now go on dates, spend the money, women that don't want to go to the Cheesecake Factory, they want to be taken here or there, they're all bougie. They rather not spend the money and stay home and just rack up the resources and build themselves up and have that financial freedom. Women take in this hedonistic consumerism society, and men are expected to give and give and give and give. And it gets to a point where you just break the person. Men don't like it anymore. The deal doesn't work for them. So women are now just chasing these guys. Average women are all chasing this top guy. And this is where they end up in situationships, men entertaining at the top, entertaining multiple women. And that's how you have a skewed scenario like this, where only 34% of women in their 20s are single, and most men in their 20s are single. They're the ones that have to starve themselves and build themselves up so that women can eventually see them. See, the last laugh, though, is with men. Because at the end, they get to pick, they get to choose, they get to decide. Women have a limited amount of time to figure things out during their prime, where they have the most amount of control over a man. After her 20s, it starts to slowly dip. That power dynamic starts to shift. That's the thing about men and women in their 20s. Men gain power later down the line. Late 20s, early 30s, and well into their 40s even. Not the same for women. They have the most control during their 20s and can leverage anything they want at that age. For the most part, there are exceptions to the rule, but let's not follow the exception. Let's listen to the rule.